All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, where we are just days away from the United States abandoning the war-torn nation of Afghanistan. U.S. President Joe Biden has strongly defended his decision to pull U.S. military forces out. Now, Joe Biden has expressed confidence in the Afghan military, adding that a Taliban takeover of the country is not inevitable. The Biden administration has continued with the drawdown efforts in Afghanistan, which is struggling with the Taliban's consistent and violent push for power. And Biden says that he has complete faith in the ability of Afghan military to repel the Taliban advance. He also has denied reports that the United States intelligence had forecast a collapse of the US-backed Kabul government within 6 months from the withdrawal of the American troops, leading potentially to a situation of a civil war unfolding in Afghanistan. Now, Biden has announced 31st of August as the day that the United States military mission will end in Afghanistan, as he concluded that the United States military had achieved its goals in the country, which were to degrade Al-Qaeda and also to prevent more attacks on the United States. These are President Biden's most extensive comments yet about the U.S. withdrawal. Biden said that it was highly unlikely that one government will control Afghanistan after the U.S. pullout. And he's also urged the Afghan government to reach a deal with the Taliban to allow them to coexist peacefully along with the Kabul government.
It's a silly question. Do I trust the Taliban? No. But I trust the capacity of the Afghan military, who is better trained, better equipped, and more competent in terms of conducting war. The United States did what we went to do in Afghanistan, to get the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 and deliver justice to Osama bin Laden, and to degrade the terrorist threat to keep Afghanistan from becoming a base from which attacks could be continued against the United States. We achieved those objectives. That's why we went.
Ending America's longest war, Joe Biden also assured the Afghan military translators that there is a home for them in the United States and that America will always honor those who served in the war, planning to move thousands of Afghan interpreters out of the country in the month of August. The United States has asked them to apply for U.S. visas. In a tweet, Joe Biden has said that the nation is repositioning its resources to meet with the terror threats across South Asia, the Middle East and Africa. Last week, the U.S. forces vacated the U.S. epicenter of the conflict to oust the Taliban, the Bagram airfield. Now, the airbase was used to hunt down the Al-Qaeda perpetrators of the 2001 terror attack on the United States. That had triggered the war. The remaining U.S. troops are now concentrated in the Afghan capital of Kabul. In the last week, the Taliban have overrun areas bordering 5 neighboring nations, including the border with Iran, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, China and Pakistan. All right, now to give us more updates in terms of what this U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan would, of course, mean for Afghanistan and also for the United States, we're joined in by Mr. Lawrence Sellin, who's a retired U.S. Army Colonel. Now, Mr. Sellin, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. So let me begin by asking you this. So 31st of August is what President Joe Biden has said will be the date when the United States would want to close its military operations missions in Afghanistan. A lot of people, however, are saying that the United States is effectively deserting Afghanistan for the Taliban to take over. Is that what is happening?
No, well, I wouldn't describe it as deserting Afghanistan, but we're in for some major geopolitical changes in the region. I expect the Taliban to be in control of Afghanistan within 6 months. And the big winner here is China and by extension, Pakistan. China will get Afghanistan into the China-Pakistan economic corridor. China will begin exploiting Afghanistan's mineral wealth. China will begin building military bases on the Arabian Sea in the Pakistani province of Baluchistan. And this will be a link to the military base, the naval base, already in operation in Djibouti. So in essence, China will be controlling some major choke points in the Arabian Sea, at the mouth of the Red Sea the entrance to the Suez Canal, and in the bases coming in Pakistan will control the mouth of the Persian Gulf. So China will then control the major sea lanes in the northern Indian Ocean with the hope of connecting it all the way to the South China Sea. So regardless of whether you consider this is a desertion by the United States, the geopolitical consequences are far more troublesome and far more important than any political discussion around what the United States has done or not done.
Absolutely indeed. Now, observers within Beijing would be looking at what is happening, in Afghanistan with the United States pulling its troops out. It has created a power vacuum, which the Taliban, of course, would be only too happy to take over in Afghanistan. But it also, like you said, allowed Beijing to move in. Is this some sort of a strategic, in many ways, a strategic defeat for the United States, where it is moving out of Afghanistan and effectively letting China take over?
Well, I think it's a strategic problem, not just for the United States, but for the world. Anyone who's opposing China's hegemony, global hegemony, including India, this is a setback. So, I wouldn't put the blame on the United States per se. The whole world is concerned about this, because if China moves into Afghanistan, essentially creating economic and military dominance in South Asia, everyone suffers from it.
That's an important point that you said, because if there is turmoil within Afghanistan, then the entire region and indeed the rest of the world will have to bear the consequences. At this point of time, what will you foresee would be the nature of U.S. involvement in Afghanistan? Will the United States still continue to want to exert some kind of an influence in Afghanistan?
I don't see any way that the United States can have any influence in Afghanistan. Its entire influence in Afghanistan had to do with its presence in Afghanistan. So if the United States has no presence in Afghanistan, I see very little chance for the United States to exert any influence on Afghanistan per se. That doesn't mean the United States cannot have influence in the region and to offset China's hegemony. And I think working with India is a critical part of that.
Absolutely indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Selin, for joining us and getting us those insights into this very complex situation that is now evolving in Afghanistan.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.